Dadnarok presents the Ted Lasso After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
Hey, we are here once again. We've broken free from the Disney Plus mold. No more Star Wars and Marvel. Well, until, they release more Star Wars and Marvel. I'm sure we'll cover them then. But right now we moved on to Apple TV Plus with one of our new favorite shows, Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. Man, I was so happy for this show to return.
Yeah.
It felt so comfortable. It felt like we never left them.
I
we
know.
actually picked up the episode.
I know. When before you and I got on it, I said it felt just like, episode 11 of season 1. Like they really just, kept going.
Yes,
it
they
had
did.
that same feeling. But hey, we are Dadnarok for the uninformed out there. Maybe you guys are just Ted Lasso fans and you don't know who the heck we are, and you just happen to trip on this on YouTube. But we are a couple of guys. We're dads. We've known each other since we were 10 years old. We do shows like this for, the hit shows that happen to be out at that time. We do after shows. Like I mentioned before, we've done some for the Marvel shows, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, WandaVision, as well as The Mandalorian. You can find those on YouTube. And we do a podcast available anywhere podcasts are available. It's called the Dadnarok Podcast. But yeah, so Chris and I were both looking forward to Ted Lasso. What do you think about how they opened up this season? Because my assumption was that, we were going to start right from before game 1 and get into the headspace of getting into a new, football season for them. But we actually open up and we're already 7 games in.
I had no problem with it. I like how they did it too. The narrative actually fit.
Yeah,
so they're going and they're harping on the ties and everything. And in reality, being a soccer fan, a tie is a bad thing in an American's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
A tie in a soccer game or match, or however you want to look at it, is not a bad thing because you're getting a result. You're getting a point every game you're playing. So they're not losing. So they're not in a bad spot. Now, yeah, granted they want to win and get the 3 points, but not losing is also better. I mean, you haven't lost the game yet, and essentially you're still undefeated.
Yeah, Rebecca says as much when Ted walks in. But the team, I guess it's hard to boost the morale as high as it could be when you're just kind of like toeing the line there. When you need to be doing, if you want to get unrelegated and get promoted back into the Premier League, you're going to have to do better than tying every game.
yeah, because you're gonna have to finish in the top like 2 or 3 or whatever it is to be able to be promoted back up into the league that they were relegated from.
Right. But the great thing that you and I love about the show is the character interactions. I mean, we're talking about soccer here, and that just goes to show you, like, the soccer portion of this game kind of takes a back seat, or takes a really big back seat to the character dynamics.
No, football is life.
True. Football is life. But yeah, so we open back up here, and where are we at here as far as Ted? When we last left him, he was just trying to he was just starting to get over his divorce. I don't know if he's still over it, really.
No,
but
he's not over. I mean, there was a spot where later in the show when you're dealing with a sports psychiatrist, and apparently he went to see a marriage psychiatrist or whatever, marriage counseling.
Yeah,
and he felt like he was being set up during it. So yeah, his whole opinion towards psychiatrists and all that isn't very high. But the reason we get there, and now if you guys know Sean knows this about me, I will laugh at the most inopportune time. Like it's something that is funny, well, it's not supposed to be funny.
Yeah,
I will bust out and just laughing.
Right.
There's been plenty of opportunities that's happened to me in the theater where I'm laughing, and then all of a sudden my my mind goes, "Whoa, no one else is laughing. You better shut up."
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So when we pick it up here, they're in extra time, overtime, and they have a chance to get a penalty kick. So Danny's up there; he's going to take the kick, and everyone's like, "Oh, we're finally going to get our W. We're finally going to win." And they show a shot of this old man holding Earl, their mascot, on the sidelines. And as soon as after Danny says football is life, he runs up to kick the ball, and something happens, and the dog gets off the leash, going after a pigeon.
Yes, I knew they were really focusing on that pigeon in slow motion and the dog looking at the pigeon. I was like, "Uh-oh." Gives you kind of a bad, ominous feeling from the get-go before he even sets his
Oh,
shot.
oh,
I didn't know that he was gonna kill the dog, though.
how
They
hard did he kick that ball?
I mean, good lord, Danny Rojas, football is life. He
He's
kicks
gonna
that
knock
ball.
that dog's head off, and I'm in the living room, and I just lose it.
Right.
I mean, I start laughing. It's not a funny scene, but I'm just twisted.
You know, from the trailers and stuff, I thought maybe Danny Rojas was gonna face some sort of adversity as far as, like, an injury or something that would, kinda take them, and I thought it was gonna be like a season-long arc kinda thing, but
Like a
they kind
knee
of
injury or something.
yeah, something, but, they kinda blew by it in one episode, which is fine, they need to win.
And they need, yeah, they need Danny to be at the top
Yeah,
of his game. To
right.
see that they don't have Roy and they don't have Jamie. They really don't have, anyone besides Danny.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, we've got the gang back together. We've got the coach's room. We got the Diamond Dogs together again in Ted Lasso's office there with Coach Beard. And here we have a clip here where they talk a little bit about them tying to open up the season.
I'm telling you, all these ties are my fault. It's straight up celestial payback for the Man City game. There I was, wishing and hoping for a friggin' tie. And now the karma police are making good on showing me what I get when I mess with them.
The team's playing well, Ted. Just a little unlucky, that's all.
Unlucky, yeah. Man, I love the way y'all use that word over here. Back home, if a team was playing poorly, we don't call them unlucky. What do we call them, Coach?
New York Jets.
There it is.
What a dig.
Oh,
What an
the New
unnecessary
York
dig.
Jets.
Those poor Jets fans.
Oh no, screw the Jets fans. I can't stand the Jets, and the fact that they took a shot at the Jets,
Yeah.
oh, that just makes me so happy as a Dolphins fan. I haven't been able to stand the Jets since they came back on Monday Night Football. My Dolphins, they were down by like 40 points, and they came back and beat us. I've despised them ever since.
I was worried that the America versus Britain shtick, the cultural differences might get old eventually, but they're able to keep it fresh because they don't linger on it too long, and it's not a big part of the show. They just drop little jokes here and there just as a reminder. And sometimes Coach Beard and Ted Lasso will say something to each other, and the British folks kind of look in a weird way, or vice versa, where the British folks will say
Yeah.
something, and in this episode, Ted goes to Coach Beard. Is like, it's almost like we live in a foreign country or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
go figure.
Just little stuff like that. They're able to keep it fresh because they don't focus on it so much. But
that whole scene, the back and forth, the
mhm.
ties, because he didn't want a tie. He was like, no, there's no such word. We're not going to worry about a tie.
Right.
And now they're 8 in.
Yeah, so this psychotic break of Danny Rojas, I mean, he has this tragedy, honestly. Like, Ted Lasso is able to kind of save grace and save face in the press conference there with what's the reporter's name? Ted Grimm
It's Ted Grimm. Yeah, Ted Grimm from the
oh God, he says
the
it so much.
Independent?
The Independent, yeah.
The
How could I
Independent.
forget?
Yeah, because it's funny. All the actual reporters said where he was from.
Right. Yeah, so he brings it up, and so Ted tells this, very kind of long-winded story about his youth,
With Ted
and
style,
yeah,
answer.
but it captured the reporters' hearts and minds, and they were fine. And he was just like, I hope Danny isn't taking it too hard on himself. And we take a jump cut to Danny, who's just like crying and praying in the shower, full of clothes. Yeah. And he's broken. Basically, he was like the big positive energy in season 1. And to see him broken is not a good thing for the team. So
Not at all.
So they make the decision to bring a sports psychiatrist onto the team to help him out. And like you mentioned, Ted's a little cold on that idea at first.
Yeah, he wasn't all about it. I mean, he was
Yeah.
talking. They were actually. I think it was both him and Coach Beard were in a pub.
Yeah.
They're going back and forth. He was like, I'm not sure exactly how he says, get real with your friend, put your beer down real type thing. And they're going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they really got to it. And actually, Coach Beard flipped it on him.
Yep.
He was like, you remember what you told me when I was dating that dancer from the cruise line?
Right. I love those little scenes, those little character nuggets about Coach Beard. It's so funny.
So they're going back and forth with that, and then at the end of it, he's like, "You told me." Oh, I think don't quote me on this, but he's like, "Everybody's their own somebody," or something like that. Everyone's different.
Right.
So he's like, give it a chance. This may actually be better for everybody. I think he's almost hinting towards it may be good for you.
Yeah, I think so. Because of course, the sports psychiatrist, she gets there, the psychologist, and she's, everybody's kind of jokey and warm and stuff, and Ted set the behavior and set the pattern and set the bar there for how folks interact with each other, and they're kind of like a family. And she comes in and she's just very kind of stoic and not really laughing at jokes and not very warm. But
she leaves kind of on a good note when she asks them what their record was. And
right.
She's like, impressive. And she kind of walks.
Right.
So you kind of seen a little bit of a personality out of her at the very end of the interaction when they were in the room together.
You do, and you get a glimpse, and you do what I found to be very interesting. She's, Ted's kind of hemming and hawing about her being there, and she's like, don't look at them. Are you good at what you do? And it's not something you hear from people very often. Just like, don't give me a wishy-washy answer. Just tell me, no, yes or no. Are you good at what you do?
Yeah.
And Ted, after a moment pause, he's like, yeah, I believe I am good at what I do. And she says to him, as good as you are at what you do, I'm twice as good as what I do.
Yeah. She's like, I believe you, but I'm twice as better.
Right. Which it's like when somebody can walk around with that confidence, and this is your first time meeting them, it's kind of like, it kind of shakes you a bit. You're like, oh, okay. All right. Well, this person means business.
Yeah. They can handle themselves. Okay. So we're going to move on here.
She's very intimidating.
Don't
much
call her Doc.
No, don't call her Doc. It's Doctor. Very intimidating to the fact that what's Rebecca's assistant's name? Gosh, I forget. I'm gonna have a IMDb page pulled up for her after show here.
No, that's terrible. He gives up his office to her.
He does, yeah.
And he's like, "Are you doing this to be nice, or because you have to?" He's like, "A little bit of both."
Right. Which is,
Higgins.
Higgins, yes, absolutely. Thank you. Hey, we got it. But that's kind of the theme of this episode. That's kind of Ted's kind of conflict of this episode is he's not sure how he feels about this new person in this home, this environment that they've created for themselves over season 1. I think that he feels that as though, like, if he can't get the guys to be feeling in a positive way or back to good, then he's not doing his job properly. And he feels really weird about bringing in an outside person to do that portion, because that's always been his clout, right? Like, I mean, that's been his thing. We've got it up here right above us, believe. Like, he's more about coaching the person as opposed to coaching the player. He's more about, like,
he's family first.
Yeah, exactly. And fulfilling that role in some way. But when you're a coach, you don't have a degree in psychology, and this person is probably more suited to carry the heavy duty stuff. So I think that may be a conflict that we see maybe throughout the season here. I don't know how many episodes it'll take, but that's probably going to be our character arc, is those two learning from each other. And I assume Ted actually getting some real heavy duty help about where he is. Cause I think we're going to revisit that panic attack that he had last season.
Oh yeah. We're not past that. He's not, like I said, he's not over, the divorce now with his now ex-wife. He's got the picture of his kid that's, all the way back in the States that he's not seeing as often as, based on his character,
right?
He would want to see him.
Yeah.
So there's all those internal things that are going on, which, yeah, I can absolutely see him sitting down with her and having a conversation. And it's going to be multiples, because I feel like the first time he sits down with him, it's just going to be a wall.
Yeah, I think so.
He's not going to be the Lasso that we know.
Right.
He's going to be a whole different person, because he's going to be defensive. He's going to be quiet. He's not going to be as quick to a response,
right,
as he is. Even with Trent at the very beginning, when he first met Trent at that first press conference, he was quick back with him, and then he spent a whole day with him afterwards.
Yeah,
to win Trent over, which I love. That Trent Grimm is probably one of my more. It's hard to say favorite characters,
because he's not in it much. But
no, he's not. But I think even with him being in it so little, he still plays such a big role. Like when the camera's on him, I'm not sure the actor that plays him, but he demands the actual attention when he's on camera.
Yeah, I hear that. It's a very strange role because he's not in it very much, and when he is in it, it's only for like one scene. Besides that one episode last season where he was in it, kind of the whole episode, but when he is in it, it feels super important. So it's like kind of a. Alexa started talking to me.
Oh,
Alexa,
that's odd.
Cancel.
We were interrupted by
Trent Krim, the Independent.
from the Trent Krim, the Independent.
Alexa really wanted to start playing a song for me. But yeah, that's kind of the arc for Ted Lasso in this episode, is the introduction and the hesitation around this new I was going to say new player, but it's not a new player, new psychologist coming in.
Yeah, based on the trailers, I think she's going to be around for a while.
Yeah,
she's definitely not a one and done. I think Rebecca's going to see the importance because it wasn't just Danny. Danny went in and she fixed Danny. I mean, he comes running on the field, Coach, football is life. And he runs out there, and then he sees the doctor up on the on the balcony, and she didn't wave. He waves at her, but she never waved back.
Right.
She's like, oh, she didn't see me. Yeah.
Coach Beard. He's like, oh, she saw you. He's always calling stuff out. I love Coach Beard. Might be one of my favorite characters. Just like he's such a distinct character. Like they write these characters so well. They're so fully fleshed out, each and every one of them. Another thing that I noticed here is our man Nate the Great.
Nate, yes, I was just thinking Nate. Good, go with it.
He was being really kind of harsh this episode. I mean, they didn't really say anything to him, but he was starting to act like a real drill master. Like
he's trying to be something he's not.
Yeah,
and you can kind of see it
in
what he's doing. Even like Coach Beard and Ted are like, what was that?
You're giving
pressure makes pearls.
Right. Something very out of character for him to be so harsh against the players.
It wasn't even a player.
Yeah.
It was the new kick boy.
Well, it was both. First, it was the kick boy. And the second time around was as far as Danny, being needing motivation. Yeah. And he was like, how about we just show him his paycheck? There's all the motivation you need. Like, whoa.
Even Ted was like, well, that's kind of harsh.
Yeah, so something's going on with Nate. I'm sure we'll revisit that here in the upcoming episodes. But I think the bulk of this episode really kind of revolved around three characters. There was Ted, which we already talked about. God, I would hope so. The show's named after him.
Yeah, exactly.
But also we had Rebecca is going through something. I mean, she's moving on from her ex. Thank God.
Her character is phenomenal.
Yeah.
What they've done with her character from the minute we met her in season 1 to where we are now, it's like I didn't care for her at the very beginning.
Right.
And now we're at the point where it's like I love the scenes she's in.
Yeah.
So I mean, just that by itself, the writing of that, her character, how much further can we go with it? See, my worry is how much further can we go with her character before they have to revert back to her kind of becoming cold again?
Yeah. I don't know. That's what I was going to bring up as well, is like she had such an interesting arc last season from being this cold woman who just wanted to hurt the team out of spite for how she felt about her ex, coming around completely on the other side to being this warm person that, wanted forgiveness from Ted and got it and appreciated what she had and really wanted this team to succeed.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a full, huge, 180 arc for her.
That's a series arc,
right,
within one season for a character.
Yeah, they did a lot of work with her last season, and
Keely broke her. It was mainly Keely. I mean, Ted was at the heart of it and everything, and giving her the biscuits and everything every morning. Mm-hmm. But predominantly, it was Keely who worked on her and wore her down to the point where she is now with us.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. It looks like so far we're going into her personal life a little bit more and her moving on from, her ex and the ex-owner of the team, which, he was a big scumbag in season 1. I don't know. We may see him again.
Oh, he's bound to pop back up because his new wife owns a portion of the team.
Right.
So, I mean, he has the ability to be in the team box.
Yeah. So
I mean, that little barbecue sauce bar scene only got him out of the box for the remainder of that season.
Yeah, very true. So I'm sure we'll probably end up seeing him again. If only for it's just, she's not completely over his control and that past. I mean, I think dealing with the trauma of being with him and all the things that he does to her is still going to be, there's still fuel to that fire. I mean, we're still going to be working through that with her. Moving on in a new relationship, but she makes a big revelation to herself in this episode. Thanks to Roy mostly.
Yeah, Roy was. I love that because Roy's sitting there and you're like, they're all after that. The double date, and dude leaves, and then you got Rebecca, you got Keely, and you have Roy, and Roy's like, "Shut up! You deserve. You shouldn't settle. Right? You need to have somebody that's going to make you, explode. You have to be excited to be with somebody, not someone that's just fine."
Yeah, essentially, this guy is like, okay, like he seems like a nice guy. He talks a lot, but he's not overly he's not mean or a jerk or anything. Yeah. He's just kind of okay. And constantly throughout the episode, Rebecca's kind of asking for, affirmation. Yeah. Like, what do you think of this guy? What do you think? She's showing texts to Keely, she's talking to Ted about it. And throughout the dinner, you can tell Roy just doesn't want any part. He doesn't want to really be there to begin with.
Well, once he finds out the guy is a fan of both Manchester City and Man U,
right?
Based on who's winning, he grabs the waiter and he's like, "I need 2 more of these."
Right. And this is kind of a portion of. I think Roy is probably the third character that has a kind of a big hunk of story in this episode, and we'll touch on him a little later. Roy's going through his own things, but as far as Rebecca goes, I mean, she has lunch or she has coffee, maybe a day or two after this double date dinner with this guy, and she's just kind of talking out loud, and she kind of repeats what Roy had told her, like, I deserve somebody that's going to make me feel like it should feel, dangerous. I should give that to myself as far as, she really needs to feel it again. It's just as opposed to just kind of
needs to be exciting.
Yeah, exactly. And she's kind of allowing herself to feel that way when before it was just almost in a safer way just to be with some guy who's nice, and she may not even necessarily like or feel those big feelings,
but it's just avoid being alone.
To avoid being alone. Exactly right. She looked throughout the cafe there and she saw folks she saw the folks on their phone. She saw the folks that seemed to be canoodling together, drinking wine.
Yeah.
And the one lady just kind of sitting there alone. And she's like, these are my options here. Like, what do I want?
Yeah. Which one of these 3 am I going to be?
Yeah. And she says these things out loud. Unfortunately, the poor guy, he's just sitting there and he's listening to her as she's talking to herself. And I mean, am I dumped? Are you breaking up with me?
Yeah, he didn't know what hit him.
Yeah, and it's not one of those things where he is a big jerk or something, and it's just something that's not happening with the two of them.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta cut your losses and move on.
Yeah. And she offered to pay for coffee, and he was like, "Fair enough."
I love the fact that it was Roy who basically set her on her way.
Yeah.
That when I was watching it and when he said that, I was like, "Oh, how is she going to take that?"
Roy and Rebecca have very few interactions from last season, but I think there's like a very they're very similar in some ways because they're both very kind of intimidating in their own kind of way.
Yeah.
And
Roy Kent. He's every fucking where Roy Kent.
Yeah, that's right. And Rebecca she just demands attention when she walks in a room.
Well, we don't know how much interaction they've had when we haven't seen them from last season to now because how close Roy and Keely have gotten, and Keely is really close to Rebecca. So I bet you there's a lot more interaction that just has been, not
or even before Keely, or even before we started season 1. I mean, he's been the star player for this team for at least a few years, and she's been not the manager, but kind of the one that was been taking care of things behind the scenes as her husband was out philandering. So I'm sure they have probably somewhat of a decent working relationship, at least a very good mutual respect for one another. It's just one of those things where interesting developments here with Rebecca this episode. But the third character that had a lot of story time here was Roy.
Roy. I was happy we weren't done with Roy. I was worried that when he walked off the pitch at the end of the last season, it was pretty much the end of me. I thought we were able to get a little bit here and there because of of Keeley.
Yeah,
I didn't think, that he would still be a main character, and I've got no doubt in my mind he's going to be in the forefront of this show as long as the show is running. Hopefully, long.
yeah, me too. Well, he is one of the writers too, so
there we go.
Hopefully, he decides to stay on because he's a good character. In fact, the beginning of the episode, Ted's asking Keeley, he's like, "Hey, when's Roy going to drop by and just say hello to everybody?" And he's even like leaving tickets for him under
aliases.
Shy Plain, Dolly Parton. He likes Roy. He wants Roy to show up. But Roy's going through some things, man. When we first open up here, he's coaching his niece's soccer team,
and his niece isn't a normal niece either. That little girl, she takes after her Uncle Roy.
She's definitely her uncle's niece, that's for sure.
I loved how she she's like, "Did you finish the game?" She said, "No, got a red card, elbow, and girl in the throat." He's like, "That's my girl." I loved it.
Yeah. And I don't think he's ashamed to be coaching. He wouldn't have taken it if it would have been a shameful thing. Like, I think he enjoys what he's doing.
Well, there was that scene in the first season where they went to the school and him and Ted spent all day there.
Right.
And even the principal's like, this is the longest anyone's ever stayed with us by far.
Yeah.
So I'm not shocked that they went this route with him coaching his niece based on the interaction that he had with the school.
Yeah,
in season 1.
That's like once again the writing in the show where things just fit like a puzzle piece. Like you're like, oh yeah, I mean it feels like a real world when they're able to create things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's getting outside pressure from folks around him, from the folks at the dinner that he's at, the double date. Even Keeley is kind of pressuring him to take a job like commentating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he wants no part of that.
He has some strong feelings against it.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. Like the amount that he curses and how just like he would have to be like buttoned down so completely. Who thinks that's going to be a good idea?
Unless they give him free reign. Could you imagine?
I don't know if there's an FCC equivalent there over across the pond.
There's got to be something similar. But man, I would watch if nothing. I would just watch for Roy. You know how we have like Vince Scully. They would have Roy.
That seems to be a big thing for any major player of any major sport. Is like when they retire, it's like, well, you can suit up and go into the booth and and talk to folks. I know they've been talking about Peyton Manning doing that for years now since he retired.
They are.
Is he going now?
Both Peyton and his brother Eli are doing Monday Night Football.
Oh, fascinating. Okay.
Together. Yep. So they just did all that, but yeah, that's our football. Let's go to football.
Right. Let's go to the other football. So Roy wants no part of that, and Keeley even apologizes after dinner. She's like, "I really kind of been pushing that on you, and that's not cool of me." And I like that they call those things out. Like, there's some plot points that don't need to be dragged out. Like, it's unnecessary to have this weird dynamic between Keeley and him where she wants him to do this thing and he doesn't want to do it. Like they have a better relationship than that. And Keeley's a better character than that to push something like that on him.
Well, that's another one of those character arcs that happened in the first season.
Yeah.
Where she went from that like self-centered all about me to with Jamie to eventually falling for Roy and kind of shedding that, that personality, trait of hers.
Yeah, and Keeley's got like good stuff going on. Like she is engaged with her like new career and her new path in life. And now she's at a point where she can actually lift somebody else up. And she recognizes that Roy is at a point and kind of at a crossroads where he needs to be lifted up, and helped in any way that she can. But yeah, we're throughout the episode, we see Roy kind of grumbling about his current station. And even at dinner, where she's talking to Rebecca's boyfriend at the time. She hadn't broken up with him yet. But he was kind of very like, "Oh man, where are you at now? Where are you coaching, or what are you doing?" And really kind of pressing the point. He did not want to talk about it.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he even said, we have a cup coming up. He's like, "A cup in October? Which cup is this?" So he was even then he brought up his niece, like 11 and under, or 9 and under, girls.
Yeah.
I don't remember the look on his face, but on the other guy's face, if they even showed it. But, It was, you know what? Like, you know what? I'm spending time with my niece now. I spent all this time, entertaining you. I'm gonna, because even the guy said it. I'm sitting here with Roy Kent. Roy Kent. He even sung the song. He's every freaking where Roy Kent.
That's
Roy
right.
Kent.
Yeah. So he's kind of in the midst of finding his new life now, and I think this will be a very interesting character arc this season for Roy to see where he ends up and what's going to give him peace. But he finds himself. Go ahead.
Such a deep character. So you think about the arc that he took in the first season.
Yeah.
From hating, Ted, going through and fighting with Jamie, to actually coming to an agreement basically with Jamie, and then Jamie being sent off without either Ted or Roy's knowledge on why he left.
Yeah.
And then coming to the understanding that he can't do it anymore,
right,
because of his age. That first season of the show, you look back on it, and the characters' arcs and some of these characters are what CBS and everything would want to stretch out
for over seasons.
For 4 or 5 seasons. And they were able to achieve it, and not only achieve it, but not make it feel forced. It felt like a natural arc within the timeline that they gave us.
Yeah.
And now we have him again. Like, okay, now he's at the bottom. Like, he's retired. I'm pretty sure a lot of athletes go through this. They're lost and it's kind of flapping in the wind. They don't know what to do. And now we're going to see him kind of develop into life after football.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of one of those things where, we saw him in the beginning. He's in the episode. He's coaching his niece's team. We see him in the middle of the episode where he's having that tough time at this dinner, and he's kind of really pressed and asking for more and more drinks. And then finally, at the end of the episode, we see who he's like spending his time with outside of Keely. We finally see these yoga, grandmothers that he spends time with. And not only is he doing yoga, but apparently, like, he's watching trashy reality TV with them. Just crazy.
Who will be eliminated this week on the UK's #1 show, Lust Conquers All? Will it be Grimsby's top makeup counter associate, Ellie?
Can't fit me off, yeah? I'm the one who makes your lipstick.
Oh, shut up, you slag.
Come on, she's hilarious. Or will it be the footballing tart, Jamie?
You can't get rid of me. I'm the island's top scorer. Sexually.
Oh my God. So we have a return of Jamie, I guess, doing some, cheesy, bad reality show over there. But he's on TV. He's living his life. He's like living his best life. He's still surrounded by attractive females. He's got his shirt, unbuttoned, and he's still like, in the prime, right? Somewhere where Roy isn't right now. Yeah. So this is almost like a jab. I mean, this was like a knife to the gut here while he's sitting there, in a living room watching television with, older women. Then they probably just got done doing yoga, and Jamie.
I almost think he enjoys it.
Oh, I do too. I think he does too. But just the fact that Jamie is still in his prime, and this is a reminder that he is past that. He's not a young in his 20s Jamie, and it's almost just like a punch to the gut for him. And
all the ladies are all of a sudden swooning over him.
Right? Yeah, that doesn't help.
No, he has to top off his wine. He's drinking wine too. Come on,
right? Well, Jamie was the hot new thing that basically kind of replaced him. And for him to not even be doing it anymore, and to still have to be reminded of that, even sitting in that living room with his friends, where Jamie is still the hot new thing in the room, even though he's not even there. It's just, I felt his pain there. You could tell on his face. Normally he curses up a storm, but he was holding it in. You could just read it on his face.
He just kind of let it out in like snorts and like just facial expressions and grunts.
But basically, that's where we leave this episode of Ted Lasso. Like I said, what a great continuation of season 1. I can't wait to see how these characters progress here in season 2. It was a great premiere.
Yeah, and like I said, or Rick said earlier, it felt like once we started watching it, we fell right back into it. It didn't feel like there was any time left. Lost. The characters felt comfortable again. Watching them, it was like it's comfort TV.
It is, yeah.
There's really no real thinking about it. It's entertaining. It's heartfelt. It's funny. I mean, it's pretty much everything you'd look for in a TV show. That if you're looking for just to feel good watching something.
Yeah, absolutely. They're doing a heck of a job with Ted Lasso, and I'm sure some good things are in store for us. So Chris and I are going to be here each and every Friday night. The new episodes of Ted Lasso come out on Fridays on Apple TV Plus. So we'll be here at 10 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. If you guys haven't found us already on YouTube, please go ahead and like and subscribe over on our YouTube page. Like this video, subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. And find us our podcast everywhere where podcasts are available. Apple and, well, speaking of Apple, Apple Podcasts, the originators of podcasts, basically.
All those platforms.
Yeah, all those platforms. But Chris and I will be back here every Friday night at 10 p.m.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Until we see you next Friday, go ahead and keep it cheesy.
Barbecue sauce.